Welcome to the 67th Berlin Real Estate Talk tonight with Martin. Martin is a long-lasting friend of mine. He's one of the greatest finance brokers in town in Berlin. Martin, great having you here. Track record?
More than 25 years even.
Oh, more than 25 years. He looks very good, by the way, for more than 25 years. And you started working at Deutsche Bank a long time ago?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
I started with MLP.
Ah.
And then for 3 years, and then I changed over to Deutsche Bank as a freelancer, and then after 10 years with Deutsche Bank, I started to become self-employed without being dependent on any institution or whatever.
Okay, so this webinar tonight is of course live here on YouTube. Vasha, only YouTube or somewhere else as well?
On YouTube.
Only YouTube, so you guys please feel free to ask any question. My colleague Vasha is managing a little bit the webinar tonight, and it's like a little bit of an institution. Martin, it's the third time you're in the show. It's the version number 67. Don't worry, we haven't done all the versions with Martin. We have a lot of different experts. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask any questions. Vasha, he is commenting the questions, and he's going to ask Martin your questions, and we're trying to cover them. Today, this webinar is all about you guys. It's about international people. That's why it's all in English tonight. Living in Berlin, or maybe in Germany, or maybe living abroad, looking to buy real estate, to finance real estate, maybe to do an equity release, to get a bit the deep knowledge about how to get a mortgage, how to obtain finance, how do you do that, what kind of paperwork you guys need, how is the interest market, as we say. So we're having different views on that, of course, but he's the expert. So I've prepared a couple of questions, and you also can watch our playlist later on our YouTube channel. There are a lot of videos in English, and you can see a lot of topics. So tonight it's finance, Martin. You're in the industry for over 25 years as a finance broker.
Yeah, that's right. First of all, thanks for the invitation, Achim.
Yeah,
for more than 25 years. I started actually as a financial consultant. So mortgage brokerage was just a part of it, a small part of it, but it became one of my favorites. And nowadays, I would say 99% of my everyday work consists of mortgage brokerage.
Your website is called Berlin Finance.
That's correct, yeah.
And you're having a small team of 2-3 people. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that's right.
How many mortgages have you brokered in your career? I know you're good in math.
So. Difficult questions. Innumerous. I don't know. You just have mortgages, then you have people who repeat mortgages or extend them or whatever. Well, let's take 20 years, not the full 25 years, times, I don't know, maybe on average 10 mortgages a month. And so 120, 2,400, 2,500 would be a rough guess.
Great.
I've never counted them, actually.
But just to double check, maybe you should count when you come home tonight or tomorrow. Just speak to your wife, maybe she knows how many. But a quick question in terms of mortgage brokers, because maybe we have people who have never used a mortgage broker. How does it work in Germany? What is a mortgage broker doing, and how you get paid?
Well, the main job for a mortgage broker is to help clients to get an appropriate mortgage. Appropriate, of course, is that you get reasonable interest rates, but also that you decide properly for how long you fix interest rates. Here in Germany, we have got a system where banks are used to fixing interest rates for a period of 5, 10, or even up to 20, 30 years. And just to make sure that all the features of your loan fit to your personal situation as much as it's possible. And that's a part of the mortgage broker. And of course, to help you with the bureaucracy, Germany, as you probably know, is a highly regulated country. There are many things to consider. These are things, on the one hand, a lawyer, on the other hand, your mortgage broker should be taken care of. And that's my job then. And in the end, if everything goes well, and it's not only the mortgage broker's responsibility, but also the lenders, then you get an appropriate mortgage and, of course, the according investment.
A couple of questions in terms of the mortgage in Germany as an international client. So let's build up the two cases. One case, you're based in Berlin or in Germany. You don't speak German, but you would like to get a mortgage. And the second one is you're not based in Germany, you're not paying income taxes in Germany, as so-called a non-German taxpayer. Let's maybe quickly cover the first topic. So you're based in Berlin, maybe you're working in IT tech, working for banks, consultants, etc. But you don't speak German. How do you approach that? Why is it important to speak to someone like you?
Yeah, because it's still the same task to find you the most appropriate mortgage there. It's the same task. It doesn't matter whether you're from abroad or not, whether you speak German or not. I, as a mortgage broker, of course, have to consider your situation or your language skills, your residency status. If you live in Berlin and don't speak German, I would ask whether you've got a permanent residency permission. As a EU citizen, you would of course have it. But if you're, for example, from the US or Australia or from another country, from Africa, it might be different. We might have a blue card or whatever. And then I would have to take a look which lenders are willing to provide you with a mortgage, and which one of these lenders is the most appropriate one, matches the best your expectations, your situation. That's it. So it can happen that as a resident here in Berlin, without the knowledge of German, that you get nevertheless still the same excellent terms a German resident would get. So this can happen. It's definitely possible.
Okay, so you don't speak German, but you have income in Germany. You are, I would say, employed. You have the permanent residency status of the blue card. These are the topics. How do I pay you, or are the banks paying you?
In most of the times, the banks pay me. It's called a commission. The German term is Provision. I get it from banks. There are some rare exceptions where it doesn't work because the bank thinks it's not good to do it this way because some internal lawyer has some concerns about it, or this can also happen that if you won't believe it, a bank tells me, okay, if you take a commission, we take the same commission. So if you take 1%, we take another 1%, or if you take 2%, we take another 2%. Then I would tell the client, I take 0 from the bank, because then the bank will also take 0 from you, and we have a deal between just the two of us and leave the bank outside. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it has happened.
Okay. So I think we've covered that topic. The interest rate itself. What kind of interests are people paying when they're based in Berlin? We just have this scenario. Are they paying the same interest rates like German speaking or native Germans?
Again, it depends here, but let's take a client who speaks just English, not German, has a unlimited residency permission here in Germany, is employed without any terminations or unlimited employment, and then they can get the same terms. And now it doesn't depend anymore on you as the client. It then more depends on the property and how much you want to borrow. So whether you want to invest a lot of your own means, let's say the purchase cost plus 20% or plus 40%, or whether you would like to get a mortgage of the full purchase price plus a loan for the purchase costs. And the terms would be the same for you, like the German speaking client.
But just to double check that, so if the terms are similar or equal to the German clients, you cannot just walk into any retail bank and say, hey guys, I'd like to get a mortgage, because usually these people don't speak English and they don't work. I mean, how does it work? How do you work And why people, I mean, if you're watching this webinar tonight, I mean, maybe you have spoken to your bank. I mean, let's say you are working with Sparkasse, Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank, what else? I mean, any major retail bank you can find on the high street. They don't open just a bank account if you don't speak German. Some of them do. I think nowadays it has changed. But obtaining a mortgage, they're experts. Every bank has an expert team on real estate and mortgages. So what do you actually do? How do you compare the rates? How do you operate? And what can you offer for the clients?
Well, there are some platforms on the internet where you can check this. This is just when it's a matter of to get you the best interest rate. I know for how long you want to fix the interest rate and all these things. The difference is if you go to a bank, like a bank in the street, no matter what bank it is, you cannot be sure that you really get the best deal there, because these people are employees of the bank, and they are not like me as a mortgage broker obliged to get you the best deal. They are obliged to check with you what is appropriate for you and then have a look at what they can offer from their toolbox. Their toolbox might be big, it might be short, but these employees sometimes have also restrictions, like they have to try to do some cross-selling, and you might then get offered a so-called Bausparvertrag, a savings contract. That's not a bad product, but it's like an insurance. These products, they are commission-bearing, and usually more of them are sold than actually needed. And you as a client can run a risk of getting such a product, which as a product itself is not bad, but might not really be necessary for you, or you might just not need it. It's just an extra payment you have to cover then by taking it on. I will take the example of the Bausparvertrag to show why why it has to be considered as a neutral product. A Bausparvertrag, for example, can be very, very good for somebody with a very low income who needs security for all the installments from the very first installment to the very last installment. Then a Bausparvertrag is very good. But this product has a design that it pretends to be very cheap. It shows you low interest rates. And you think, oh, very good, I now get a mortgage, a loan, a pre-loan for this product of maybe, I don't know, 5%. And then I will have an interest rate of 1% or 1.5%. Super, what a deal. But in the end, there are some obstacles, some pitfalls that you usually don't see. And this is my answer to your question, why do we need a mortgage broker? A mortgage broker's obligation is to find you the best deal. And I would not exclude such a Bausparvertrag. I cannot remember when I got one for a client the last time, but in theory it's possible that I recommend such a Bausparvertrag. But I would tell you also the disadvantages of it. I would tell you where the hidden commissions are, what extra fees to consider, all these things. You might also get them disclosed by the banker, but just in form of a piece of paper where you can have a look, and I don't know whether you would read it because there are so many things on this piece of paper. And I, as a mortgage broker, should know where the relevant things on this paper are written and tell you. So you should get, or the chance to get a fairer deal is higher with a mortgage broker, not just me. I also speak for my colleagues. There's not just me as a mortgage broker, of course. Yeah, and that's the reason why.
Okay, so we have covered the pros and cons using you as a mortgage broker, that you basically can explain people what are the advantages and disadvantages. You often get better interest rates than the guys sitting in the bank, not always, but often. And it's definitely worth speaking to you to get an offer, to see what kind of deal I can get as an international client living in town. Now let's quickly jump on the second case, where we have people not living in Germany. Maybe they don't speak German as well, like, I don't know, let's call it, they're living in the Middle East, in the US, outside of Europe, and they would like to buy an investment property within Germany. So how can they get a mortgage, or do they actually can get a mortgage, and what are their conditions?
Yeah, I want to be fair. So you said that I, as a mortgage broker, so I will jump
Yeah.
back to your questions immediately. That I, as a mortgage broker, get the clients sometimes the better interest rates or whatever. There's an exception. If a client is, for example, or has a long-term relationship with the bank, it can happen that this bank really wants to keep the client and offers the client a special deal, and then they can get even better interest rates than just by contacting a mortgage broker. This can happen, but this is rather the exception than the rule. Back to your question now. Well, this is a totally different story. Nowadays, as our country is becoming ever more regulated, it first of all depends on the country you reside.
Mm-hmm.
If you, for example, reside in Russia at the moment, no way to get a mortgage here in Germany for political reasons. Legally, it's possible. If you ask our supranational institutions like Deutsche Industrie and Handelstag, they say, no way. Germans who are resident in Russia can, of course, get a mortgage. But the bank said, no, we don't want to have any problems that we might be accused of breaking any sanctions. No. Same is with other countries like, at the moment, I think South Africa, for example, is on a blacklist, or some islands which have the reputation of being especially tax efficient, if I may express it this way. Yeah, but now taken that you live in a country where there is no problem, you would have to find an investment property, a good property you like, or a property for self-use even. And then I would check for you what is possible. At the moment we have 1 to 3 appropriate lenders for this purpose. It's different whether you are a German, for example, based in Switzerland, or whether you are a US citizen based in the US. But for both cases, mortgages are possible in principle. And here the LTVs can be, take the... If
you mean the loan to value?
The loan to value, at least loan to value. If you are the US guy living in the US buying a newly built property in Germany for self-use, for example, because you want to come over from time to time, or you have a relative or a child who wants to start with his studies in Berlin, then you might get up to 65%, for example, of the purchase price, and would only have to cover the remaining 35% plus, or even 70%, and then the remaining 30% plus the purchase cost from your own means. So this is an ideal situation. If you are a German living in Switzerland, it can be even up to 80% or 90%. Yeah, so it depends.
LTV will depend on a lot of criteria. We just spoke about the nationality or where you're based. There are certain areas in the world where the banks do not like to finance the people because of political reasons. However, is there a lower LTV, loan to value, if you're not having German income? And
usually yes, yeah. Of course, usually yes, yeah, definitely. Because the reason is simple. It's not that they want to discriminate you as a non-resident. It's just the thinking of banks here in Germany is, if we have a resident, a German resident plus a property, we have two securities. We have the property as a collateral, and we have the creditworthiness, because we could pledge the income and or seize the income of our borrower. Whereas if you live in Australia, buy a property here, from the bank's perspective, they only have the property as a collateral. Of course, they let you sign that you are liable, but no bank, no lender would really start suing you in Australia. It would be far too risky, far too expensive, and therefore there's only just one collateral. And this, of course, results in a lower LTV, loan to value, what you can get in relation to the purchase price as a loan total, and the interest rate.
Interest rates, maybe that's a good topic. I think we covered these two cases. Interest rates. What is the current interest rate? We're now having September 29, that's 25. Where do we see interest in the future?
Well, again, for residents, it really depends on how much they want to borrow in relation to the purchase price or the value of a property to be true loan to value. So there can be rates, I would say, ideally, if everything is perfect, maybe 3.2, 3.3 for a 10-year fix until something over 4%. For a foreign investor,
just quickly, there's even 1% difference between 3.2 and let's call it 4.2.
There's 1% percentage point difference. Yeah. If you take a 60% mortgage only, let's take an example. Then it's better. Somebody wants to buy an apartment for 200,000 euros. If they only need a mortgage of 100,000, it's a very low loan to value, and then they are employed, have a very good income, and they are employed in a branch which is considered very secure. Then everything's perfect, and then they can get the interest rate around, I would say, some 3.2. I haven't looked it up today, but maybe 3.2 for 10-year fix, maybe even a little bit lower, a little bit higher. But if somebody comes up and wants the full 200,000 or even the purchase costs financed, then of course it's higher. And if this person is self-employed or has a certain age or is in a branch where the lender is not so convinced that this branch will keep his job for the next 20 years or whatever, then this can have an impact, and of course on the negative, and then we can approach the 4%.
Okay. And if you're not based in Germany, how many lenders do you actually have who are financing international clients?
I'd say if you're talking about individual borrowers, 1 to 3, really depending on the situation. For the most lenders, for the most clients, usually one lender, because all the others have proved too complicated, too bureaucratic, too expensive, or too low LTV.
Okay.
In theory, still 3, but nobody would be happy if you want to buy a property for 500,000 and just get a mortgage for 100,000, so 20% LTV is not worth going for it. But I take the example, the German based in Switzerland. For such a client, I have 3 lenders, and for any EU citizen, at least 2 lenders, which could work. So, but if you are, without being wanting to be discriminating, but if you are, for example, if you reside in Peru, or if you reside in India, or I don't know, then there's usually just one lender.
Okay. And with lower end, the interest is the same, 4%, or is it less?
It's around 4%.
It's around 4.
Yeah,
okay, so the interest doesn't change, but the LTV would change.
The LTV would change. Yeah.
Okay, so they have
but
more.
again, but the LTV then it would change. It then depends on whether you buy something new built or existing. New built, by definition, can be up to 2 years old, and whether you buy for letting or for self-use.
Okay.
But this has no influence on the interest rate. It's just the LTV.
So just a couple of questions. So you mentioned a couple of countries who were on the blacklist. So we had the UAE. I think they're now off the blacklist.
That's correct, yeah.
South Africa, which is a big
South
market.
Africa is on the blacklist. I think Vietnam is on the blacklist.
Yeah.
I don't know all the countries are. Russia is not on the blacklist, but banks think they need to sanction it, like Belarus. Then we have.
I think we have all the Caribbean islands who are famous for.
Maybe Pacific Island, Vanuatu, I think it's called, and we have some 2 or 3 further African countries.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Iran is on the list. I would have to look it up.
What about China?
No, China is not on the list. China is possible.
Okay.
Yeah, but this particular lender, which is taking this blacklist very seriously, they have, besides Russia, they've also put Qatar on it for whatever reasons. Doesn't make any sense. But to me, doesn't make any sense. I'm still discussing it with them, but okay, we'll see. So, but yeah, the blacklist consists of, I would say, some 20 to 30 countries.
So we have this, I think that's clear. Now let's come a little bit to the process itself. So I say, hey Martin, my name is Achim, I'm living in whatever, in a different city, in a different country.
Yeah.
I don't speak German, I would like to borrow money to buy this, I don't know, let's say 200,000 euro apartment. It's a new build. And then I hand you in my documents, like my passport, ID card, proof of equity. What else do I need to hand in to you so you can check my mortgage?
Well, of course, I need to know where the property is located. So one important thing, this lender, this standard lender, selects locations. So if you buy something in a city or town, it's okay. If it's a special place, a small town or village, I need to have a pre-inquiry whether it's possible there to get your mortgage. That's one thing. And then I would need to know whether you want to have it for self-use or for letting. Passport, reasonable proof of income, proof of the equity you need to contribute, of course. And if you buy jointly together with the spouse, also some documents from your spouse. You need sooner or later, you need to open a bank account, which meets the requirements of the lender so that they can have this European SEPA mandate. But it's very recommendable, and almost all investors from abroad do it. They take on a lawyer, a German lawyer, and the lawyer usually takes care of many of these things. It's very, very recommendable to take on a lawyer to avoid mistakes or pitfalls. And so these things usually are being dealt with by experts here in Germany. I would get then the further details from them, from the developer, from the lawyer, and you would only have to take care about your personal things or give your lawyer or developer a nudge to provide me with the items.
You mentioned something very important, is the bank account issue. And in my experience, I think I have 10 years less experience than you, or 8 years, let's see. It's difficult nowadays to open bank accounts. And how do you see that topic?
At the moment, we don't have problems. We can have accounts, I think, from this is something my colleague is dealing with, but I think Revolut or
online banks.
Online bank, and these accounts are accepted. They are located in Belgium, but this is okay.
Yeah, but
not even a Cyprus bank account.
But they
is
don't.
Okay.
But in Germany, we used to work a lot with Deutsche Bank and with Sparkasse, and if you're not based in town,
it has become very difficult. But why should you take such an account? It costs you money.
Yeah.
Sometimes everything is still in German. You would have to Google translate it. So why not taking an international online account which works?
But that's something which is important, I think, for you guys to be aware of. That's something you would cover. So you would give recommendations. Say, okay, guys, there are free bank accounts within Europe. Take one of them. You can do it online. I think you identify yourself online through an online system. Yeah, well,
we cannot open bank accounts for clients, but we will tell them what to do. You can do that online. Yeah, of course.
Okay, perfect.
You have to show your passport. There is no branch anyway.
Okay, and they are fine. So there's no problem with them. They just do their job and finish. Okay, and the lender would accept these bank accounts for the repayment of the loan, interest, and so on. Well,
if you want to do it on your own, please ask us. We have a list of banks, bank accounts, which work because they have to offer a SEPA direct debiting mandate.
Okay, perfect. I think that's a big one for you guys. So let's quickly jump on the process and the time. So when you usually, used to be, now the market is a bit slower since 2022, but in normal times, people inquire with, let's say, us, an agent, and say, okay, I would like to buy this apartment. and then we ask them, do you have the finance in place? And usually what we do is we send them first to a finance broker like yourself or mortgage broker to make sure that you know what you can afford. So let's say they've spoken to you, okay, you get the loan, assuming the property is, you know, suitable. How long does it take to get the confirmation from the lender?
Well, I would like to differentiate into two stages. The first one I will call, I'm calling pre-enquiry. I get a kind of a property brochure, we call it exposé. I will have a pre-check how much the lender thinks is possible as a loan. And if this is okay, we would start collecting all the items. Once the set of required items, documents, details is complete, it usually takes 1 to 3 weeks until you get the approval even in form of the contract itself already.
Okay, so 1 to 3 weeks.
1 to 3 weeks, yeah.
Okay, perfect. How sure is it? I mean, I tell my clients, don't sign the notary contract before you not have the proof from the lender. I mean, the signed contract from the lender, that's still the case. You're still advising the same? Yeah,
absolutely.
Because there is still the likelihood, but always a certain percentage, if they go through you, you give them sort of green light. Yes, it should go through the lender. There can be always something that goes wrong.
It can always happen, you know. Yeah. Nowadays, it can happen that a bank changes its rules from one day to the other, and or the new country is on the blacklist. Yeah. So then it's always a question whether the bank considers the process as ongoing and there is a protection or not. I had a case with a guy from Finland where the bank was very positive about it. We had delivered everything, and then they said, "Oh, we cannot do it due to a change in policy of yesterday."
Wow.
I don't know whether it's true or not. So therefore, my recommendation is I can give or can tell the client always how likely it is that there is still an unexpected failure, because I know the banks. There are some banks where you know that this can happen.
But I know you, Martin, even you have made mistakes because, not bad mistakes, but saying, hey guys, should go through, and then it didn't happen. So there's always something that you have not under control.
That's right, but I had always found a solution.
That's true.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that. But I wouldn't do that anymore. No, at that time, I knew there was a plan B or plan C. Now, sometimes there is no plan B or C anymore. Yeah. It's just plan A, and before plan A is confirmed in written form, not verbally, just verbally. Don't notarize the purchase contract.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's something a lot of clients ask us all the time. There are so-called Förderprogramme in Germany. So the government has a state-owned bank called KfW, and they provide special loans if you buy an apartment that complies with the new energy standards, I think it's A or AAA plus or something, or maybe I'm mixing it up. So it's the best energy standard possible, and there are certain loans, and a lot of people are asking us, hey Achim, I would like to buy this apartment. I'm not based in Berlin, I'm an international client. Can I use this? I think it's 1% or 2% interest. I forgot, something very cheap. Does it work with international clients?
Well, in theory, yes. In practice, no. Why not in practice? In theory, yes. Why not? If there was a lender who offered mortgages for such clients from abroad, and at the same time these loans, it would be fine. You have to know that these loans you cannot get them on their own. You cannot approach this state-owned bank, KfW, and tell them, I want a loan from you. You always need to have a retail bank arranging this loan for you. And this retail bank also will become liable for this loan, partly at least. And therefore, not all lenders offer these subsidized loans. And unfortunately, at the moment, we only have one bank willing to provide mortgages for people from abroad, and at the same time offering these subsidized loans. And unfortunately, this lender is not the standard lender. I've been talking for most of the time now. No, it's a special lender, and I would only see it appropriate for example, clients like Germans situated in Austria or Switzerland or France or whatever. For example, Austrians based in Switzerland, then it might be possible. But whenever you have a situation where it becomes too complicated, so this particular bank, they have stopped. If you are tax liable in 2 different countries, don't ask me for the reasons. There is no law. It's just what their internal lawyers see. Then it's a no-go. So, for example, if you're from Israel and you live in Germany, but you have some shares in Israel and have to pay the tax on the revenues, the dividends or the interest, you are concerned, according to the bank, tax liable as well in Israel. You can't get a mortgage with them. So, yeah, it doesn't match. So if it's possible, unless the state bank says no, these programs are only for German residents, but this is not always the case. But the lenders which offer mortgages to non-residents do not offer these subsidized loans at the moment. So we cannot combine them, unfortunately.
Okay. If you're based in Germany, you earn income in Germany. Let's say you're from India or China or Pakistan, but you're based in Germany and you're employed.
You can get them always.
You get a normal.
Yes,
you get these
course,
subsidized loans. Okay.
Because then we have lenders.
Yeah.
It's no problem at all.
Like the big
yeah.
lenders. Okay.
Yeah, even if with a limited residency permission is possible, as long as you're a tax resident.
I think these are the major questions on the topic from my side. I would ask you a couple of more questions. Vasha, do we have any questions so far?
Not yet.
From the audience? Okay. Then I would like to ask you a couple of questions in addition, Martin. Is there anything I've forgotten to ask you in terms of what international clients should know? Anything in particular?
I can't think of any thing. Well, we have, of course, a different situation if a client wants to buy not just an apartment, but maybe a multi-story, multi-apartment building or a bunch of apartments. Then it might make sense to buy a legal entity like a GmbH. Then we are talking about a completely different story. This, of course, we haven't discussed, but I don't think that this is so relevant for your audience. Otherwise, ask the question or ask Black Label for my contact details, and I will go deeper into this.
So just quickly, if you buy more than 1 or 2 million euros in Germany on worth of real estate, you should set up a legal entity. That's absolutely right. We have different law firms who would help you to set up that entity. And we always say more than 1 million because otherwise the legal fees are more expensive than the advantages. Rule of thumb, I think maybe now it's 1.5 million even, let's see, but definitely more than a couple of apartments. Why is it? Because you have different tax advantages if you set up a limited company in Germany, which is called GmbH, certain ways of doing it. But this also means that you have different lenders as well, like commercial lenders. And then again, it's a completely different ballgame. Yeah.
You have tax advantages, but you have also one huge tax disadvantage, and you have where you have an advantage as an individual if you sell a property after 10 years.
Yeah.
The capital gains is tax free for an individual, but not for a company. At the moment, it can change. Yeah, but
yes.
I can only talk about what's.
Yeah.
So even if they changed it in 2 or 3 years' time, if you bought today, the likelihood that you will be protected is very, very high. That's right. So you have the running costs for the legal entity. You have to have a balance sheet.
That's why I said you need to have more than 1-2 million to invest. Okay, cool, perfect. I think that's it from my end in terms of the big topics. Then I would like to talk a bit about the future, Martin. Now we're talking about the current. But let's don't talk about the past, where we had 0.7% interest. This is over. May I have a couple of statements from you So first of all, what do you think with the interest rate? It went up this year from, when did we start? January, or what's the interest in January 2025? 3.2 maybe?
Such a bad memory for figures.
That's not good if you're in your job. That's not good in your job.
You have just proposed that we don't talk about the past.
You're right.
No,
But it
honestly,
was,
I don't have a good memory for such figures because they're not relevant
it
anymore.
was less than today. Let's
Yeah.
put it this way.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
maybe 0.5% less-ish, maybe 0.3. We don't know, but not so much from our view. However, this has changed the demand. I can tell you from my part as a broker, as a real estate agent, we have less inquiries than we had a couple of months ago.
Yeah, but Achim, you are right and wrong about your statement on interest. And I, as a mortgage broker, I have to split hairs here. Concerning the short-term interest rate,
Yeah.
the base rates from the central banks, there has been a decline this year. The long-term interest rates, and these of course are the ones relevant for financing, they have increased. That's correct, of course,
Okay.
and this is what you meant, of course. Yeah, so we have, but you asked me for my prediction. I think we will, on the short side, we will see further declines. We will, the central banks have the pressure, not just from Trump. They have the pressure from poor economic data that they need to lower interest rates, and this is the base rate. Unless inflation figures are bad, then they are prohibited to lower rates too much or to lower them at all. I think everybody expects that the Fed will, so that the US central bank will reduce interest rates by either a quarter percentage point or even half a percentage point this week. We'll see. But when everybody or almost everybody expects it, something will usually happens. And but what about the long-term interest? Well, usually, of course, central banks would like to see that when they reduce the short-term interest rates, that long-term interest rates also decline due to this action. But the big or the $1 million question is whether long-term interest rates will do. You have to.
Maybe just a quick one for all these guys and not so much into the detail here. Like Martin, we talk about this not only here but all the time. So long-term, which are the bonds, and short-term, which is what the central banks are doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it very easy. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And the bonds are not going down at the moment. Actually, they're going up.
Exactly.
And the banks have priced that in. So when the Central European Bank lowered it, I now think we are 2.25, something like that.
I think, yeah.
And people, when they borrow in real life, they pay minimum 1% more, 3.5%, up to 4%. So you ask yourself why we have 1.5% difference, up to 1.5% difference. So first of all, bank needs to make a margin. I mean, they have to earn money somehow. But the big topic is that they don't believe that the long-term situation, that the bonds are not, because the governments have a lot of debt. I think pretty much all the governments.
I mean, look, it is a market. It's called capital market, and like all the other markets we have in this world, the price is determined by demand and supply. We have an increasing demand from governments for money, for debt, because they want to make debts. They need to borrow the money. They usually borrow it from the capital markets. So we have demand. Demand is always putting upward pressure on the price. And we have the fear of inflation on the supplier side. So there is less willingness to supply money. You can see it, for example, if you look at a country like China. China has reduced its stakes in US government bonds steadily. So they are not so convinced that it's a good investment anymore. And less supply is also not good for lowering prices. if something is more demanded and less available,
Yeah, but there are a
price
couple of
must go
topics
up.
we have together. So jumping, so supply demand. I think we have on the property market. Let's forget finance for the moment. There's completely over demand and under supply. Let's put it this way: for affordable housing, at least for housing people can afford. Vasha? Okay. Ah, okay. Sorry. So we have less apartments for people to rent and to buy in the price range between 200 to 500,000 euros. I think this is we can see when we have listing there. They said pretty quickly. Then we have the market between 500 and 1 million. There it's a bit slower. We have equal power from buyer and seller because people have to borrow, and that makes a difference. If you borrow for 1% or 4%, this makes a huge difference in terms of availability of money. So 100%. And above 1 million, again, that's a complete different ball game. Not everyone has to finance, but these people who do have to finance, they cannot compete anymore with the others who don't have to finance. So that has changed. So you are saying that interest went up for people in general, but it hurts the people with between 500 to 1 million more than the people below 500 because the total amount is different. Now I'm asking a couple of questions. You are saying that the bonds, you are saying that the people, the governments who are borrowing money, they are fighting for, let's call it for money because they're competing. So if the US, how much are the US bonds at the moment? How much are they paying if you borrow the US money?
I think 10 year, I think it's more than 4%.
Yeah.
I'm so big on numbers, honestly.
But
Next time,
it's
tell me
pretty
that
high.
you will
It's
ask
pretty
me for the
high.
figures, yeah.
Don't worry, but it's pretty high. If you
And
compare it
the 30 years are even
higher,
5 or 6%.
that's a lot. I mean, just imagine it's a lot. So,
uh,
why is it for you guys important if you are borrowing
Yeah.
money? This is important. Maybe you want to explain the connection.
yeah,
But for instance, if you borrow for again the German government,
yeah.
it's much cheaper. So why should I give money to the German government if I get a much higher return in the US government? Just as a topic.
Well, the question is what you consider safer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
But the
also
number
another-
tells you what most people think is safer. That's why the interest in Germany is less than in the US, at least what the market is telling us.
Yeah, the US has the advantage that they can print a dollar, but can pay the debt. So, but on the other hand, of course, this is also can open the door for higher inflation.
Yes.
So Germany is then, from this perspective, more inflation protected. Yeah, there are of course several criteria which determine the price, and the interest. Interest is the price for money. Yeah, so of course, yeah. You asked me for a prediction, and I
Yes.
think there are more reasons for increasing interest rates on the long term than for declining interest rates, long term
Yeah.
rates. And so therefore I would recommend people who are in a situation where they have to decide now for how long to fix interest rates, rather to go for security and fix it rather longer,
Yeah.
not shorter, rather 10 years, 15 years, 20 years instead of 5 years or whatever. Yeah, that's my recommendation because you have to compare, of course. If 20 years are much higher than 10 years, you might also take what you save and use it as additional principal repayment and have a lower residual then after 10 years, and interest rate must be very high then for giving you a bad deal compared to as if you had fixed for 20 years. So there are some ways around this, but in the rule of thumb would be rather fix for a longer period.
Yeah. Okay, so that's basically on the interest rate, and we have a finance talk today. Let's don't cover the rents and don't cover the asking prices or the sales prices. But of course, if interests are going up, it will affect the sales prices in one way or the other. Even though supply demand is completely on the seller side at the moment, even the luxury apartments, a lot of them are staying vacant at the moment because we don't find buyers for it. But they will sell one day or the other, maybe for a lower price, but they will sell. I mean, that's something, for you guys, if you're out there, please keep that in mind. You can make offers for the higher expensive apartments. Not all of them, of course, but most of them, I would say. And everything that comes with lending and borrowing, I mean, we've discovered, at least covered today, a lot of different angles. So where you're based, what kind of lenders are out there, that you have limited amount of lenders. You said it's not, you don't have plan B and C anymore. I think that's important. We also have discovered that there are certain countries which are, not really nice for when you live in Russia, for instance, it's difficult. And in other countries, so there are some discrimination is happening out there. And then we also have discussed the process, how it works. If I put in my papers with you, we've also discussed a little bit the outlook. So you think interests at the moment, we're now having September 2025. There's so many things that can happen. And I'm sure many things will happen in the next 6 months or 12 months, which we have no clue about at the moment. But from your perspective today, if you assume nothing will happen, your forecast is interest will stay there or go up, but not go down, if that's correct.
I don't dare forecast because it's so difficult. It has become so difficult to have a look into a crystal ball. But if you ask me for my estimation of what I would expect, I would think it's most likely that we will see higher interest rates. Yeah, that's correct. Like this.
Okay,
yeah.
so this means.
But I want to add this. Of course, what can happen? I mean, there can always be some special situations. We call them black swans. Take France, which isn't a black swan anymore. If they suddenly tell the rest of Europe we cannot handle our debts anymore, then there might be a panic with the ECB, the European Central Bank, and they might use print money and use it to buy bonds, and then this can lead to a sharp decline in long-term interest rates for at least a certain period of time. Would be a great opportunity to borrow money.
Yes.
These things can happen, but it's not written in stone that they will happen.
We are here professional people, so we cannot make any crazy stuff. No. So from our perspective, we only can give advice.
We cannot gamble.
And exactly. And what I think what we should do is keep in mind that go for a long-term fixed rate, which is Germany is very.
Absolutely.
That's what you should do. Definitely try to be as safe as possible when you sign a mortgage contract. Don't sign any notary contract before you have not a mortgage contract. Be safe, be straightforward, go with real people with a lot of experience in the market. I think this is what you need. And I think as you've sold more than 2,500 mortgages in your life, we have to run the numbers because you said 20 years, not 25, if you add the 5 years on top of that.
Yeah, but I just took 20 years because the first 5 years I also did a lot of investment consulting, not so many mortgages.
Okay, no. Let's see. But you have a team of people.
I don't have a deficit with calculation. No, but I just don't know. Don't ask me for figures.
It's a lot.
If you want to have figures from me, tell me.
Next time I'll invite you, Martin. We prepare the figures. And now
figures. This is my life philosophy. Figures you can find everywhere. If I need them, but I cannot do now, I can look them up. With the artificial intelligence or whatever, I can get them within seconds from the internet. Why should I keep them in my mind? Only for the sake of an interview? Well, next time I will be better.
Not joking. No. Thank you for watching this 67th Berlin Real Estate Talk just after the summer break with Martin Bonnet. You can contact Martin on his website. It's berlinfinance.eu. Martin, it's great having you here today.
Thanks a lot for the invitation.
You gave a lot of insights for our people here, and I hope a lot of people are watching this. And if you need a good mortgage contract, if you at least want to speak to Martin and his team to see what other mortgage contracts are there, what other possibilities are there, please feel free to contact him. And don't forget to ring the bell here on our YouTube channel. Watch our YouTube channel, ask us, contact us if you want other topics covered here on the channel. Please let us know.